My parents only raised me to serve my golden child brother. When I refused to be exploited, they tried to destroy me, but I made a move they never saw coming. I grew up believing my family was ordinary. At 24, I thought we were typical, maybe not overly warm, but not harsh either. My parents provided for us, marked birthdays with celebrations, and put on a convincing, we're a happy family act for outsiders. Nothing hinted at the dysfunction lurking beneath. I have an older brother, Ethan, who's 28. A year ago, I'd have said we were treated fairly, not identically, but close enough. Now, I see how deeply I was deceived. As a kid, I noticed subtle things that felt wrong, though never glaring enough to demand attention. During sibling spats, I was always pushed to apologize first, even if Ethan sparked the fight or we were both at fault. If I defended myself, my parents called me stubborn, overly emotional, or too fragile. When Ethan got in trouble at school, my parents rushed to his defense, blaming teachers or claiming he was just overwhelmed. My missteps, though, earned stern talks about responsibility. If Ethan forgot something, they dropped everything to fix it. If I did, they'd sigh, reminding me to be more dependable. These patterns wove through my childhood, small enough to dismiss, but constant. Ethan was a sports star, and my parents were consumed by his games. Every weekend, they were there, shouting, arguing with refs, fully invested. I sang in the choir, but they never attended a single concert. When I asked why, they'd offer excuses. Too busy, too tired, yet they always had energy for Ethan's matches. I stopped asking eventually. It wasn't worth the hurt. Ethan treated me like a nuisance, not a sister. If I got a sliver of attention, he'd scoff or make a cutting remark. When I won a choir award, he sneered, "Nobody cares about singing." If I outscored him on a test, he'd snap my pens or mutter I'd cheated. He hated that I existed, like I was stealing his spotlight. My parents never intervened. They let it slide, as if it were just how things were. At family gatherings, they gushed about Ethan's talent, his brilliance, his limitless potential. When they mentioned me, it was always in relation to him, how I was such a supportive sister, always there for him. My identity, in their eyes, was tied to being his backup. I told myself it didn't matter, that some families just have a favorite, that it didn't mean they didn't care about me. I thought I was overreacting. I wish I'd trusted my instincts. Everything shifted a year ago when Ethan was diagnosed with kidney disease. My parents were shattered, and I was stunned too. He went through treatments, pills, the works, but his health kept declining. When doctors said he needed a transplant, their focus locked onto me. I'll never forget sitting in that hospital room when the doctor mentioned it. My mom turned to me beaming and said, "Imagine if you're a match." She acted like it was already decided, like I was about to play the hero. My dad nodded, as if it were the most obvious thing. Ethan barely glanced up from his phone. I wasn't opposed to helping. I didn't want my brother to die. But their instant assumption that this was my duty made me uneasy. They didn't ask how I felt or if I was okay with it. They just expected it. I went along with the compatibility test to avoid conflict, secretly hoping I wouldn't match. But life doesn't work that way. I was a match, and the moment the results came in, it was like I'd already signed up for surgery. My mom wept with relief. My dad clapped my shoulder and said, "We knew you'd come through." Ethan just nodded like it was his due. I felt ill. I tried to raise concerns, saying it was a huge decision and I needed time to think. My mom shut me down instantly. "This is your brother, Ava. You don't hesitate for family." My dad laughed, like I'd said something absurd. "What do you mean, think? What kind of person pauses when their sibling needs them?" That's when I realized how trapped I was. I started researching kidney donation on my own. I knew it was serious surgery, but I hadn't grasped the risks, especially for me. I had health issues that complicated things. My doctor warned that my recovery wouldn't be standard. I'd be sidelined for months, and my body would never fully recover. I'd face higher risks of kidney problems myself, and if my remaining kidney failed later, I'd be in trouble. Then there was the financial hit. With student loans and a job without paid leave, donating would cost me my income, my stability, maybe even my future. I'd be buried in debt, all because my parents assumed I'd comply without question. What struck me most was that neither my parents nor Ethan ever asked how I felt. They didn't check if I was scared or okay. They didn't say, "Ava, this is your choice, and we'll support you either way." To them, it wasn't a choice. It was my obligation. I wasn't their daughter. I was their fix. I clung to the hope that if I explained my concerns, they'd understand. So I sat them down and said, "I don't think I can do this." The room went dead silent. My mom's face froze, like she couldn't compute my words. My dad stared, baffled, like I'd spoken gibberish. Ethan snorted, muttering, "Typical. I don't know why I thought they'd hear me out." "What do you mean you can't?" my mom demanded, her tone sharp, like I'd said something outrageous. I explained, "My doctor says it's riskier for me. Recovery could take months, and I can't afford to lose work." My dad cut in, scoffing. "People donate kidneys every day. They're fine." I tried to stay calm. "Not me. My health makes it different. My mom stood, her chair scraping the floor. This is your brother's life, Ava. How can you talk about money? I wanted to scream. Because it's my life too. But I didn't. I saw their faces harden. They weren't listening. I was now the enemy. Ethan rolled his eyes. Unbelievable. I turned to him. This isn't about you personally, Ethan. He cut me off. You're making it personal. You're choosing to let me die. That's not true, I said. I just need time. My dad's voice was ice. Time? This is your brother. He'd do it for you. I laughed bitterly. Would he? I looked at Ethan. If I needed your kidney, would you give it? He glanced at our parents, then muttered, That's not the point. Of course it wasn't. My mom's voice broke. Venomous. I can't believe you're doing this to us. The guilt trip began. My dad listed every penny they'd spent on me. School, clothes, doctor visits. My mom sobbed, repeating, How could you? Like I'd betrayed them. They called me selfish, ungrateful, a letdown. Then Ethan landed the final blow. You're useless when it matters, Ava. That stung. Not because I expected more from him, but because I didn't, and yet some naive part of me still hoped. Something inside me broke. I said, I'm done talking, and headed for the door. My mom grabbed my arm, her nails biting into my skin, her face twisted with rage. You're his sister, she hissed. You were born to save him. I froze. Her words hit like a slap. She let go, realizing she'd said too much. What? I asked. She stepped back, avoiding my eyes. My dad was silent. Ethan shifted uncomfortably. What do you mean? Born to save him? No one answered. The silence screamed. I looked at each of them, but they wouldn't meet my gaze. My mom muttered, You're overreacting, and turned away. But I wasn't imagining it. Something was horribly wrong. I don't recall leaving. I must have grabbed my things because suddenly I was driving, my heart racing, no destination in mind. Her words echoed, Born to save him. Why had she said it like that? Why did they all react like I'd uncovered a secret? I ended up at my Aunt Laura's house, barely holding it together. She didn't pry, just hugged me and said I could stay as long as I needed. I didn't sleep that night. By morning, I was a wreck, but I told Laura everything. The fight, my mom's words, the way they'd looked at me. I expected her to say I was overthinking, that my parents were just stressed. Instead, she sighed, rubbed her forehead, and said, Ava, there's something you need to know. My stomach knotted as she hesitated, like she wasn't sure she should speak. Then she said, Your parents didn't have you because they wanted another kid. They had you because Ethan needed a bone marrow donor. I stared, waiting for her to laugh, to say she was wrong. She didn't. When he was 4, he got sick. They couldn't find a match, so they created one. My world tilted. I wasn't born out of love or chance. I was a solution. My whole life snapped into focus. The way my successes were ignored, how I was always secondary, how they subtly ensured Ethan was the priority. It wasn't favoritism, it was design. They'd raised me to believe this was normal, never planning to tell me the truth. I couldn't speak. I'd spent my life chasing their approval, thinking if I did enough, I'd matter as much as Ethan. But I was never meant to. I was a tool, nothing more. Laura kept apologizing like it was her fault for not telling me sooner. It wasn't. She hadn't built my life on a lie. The next few days were a haze. I stayed with Laura, ignoring my parents' calls and texts. Their messages started soft, almost manipulative. My mom wrote that she understood I was overwhelmed, that she trusted I'd make the right choice soon. My dad's were curt. We're here when you're ready. Family stays united. Ethan, predictably, said nothing. He didn't need to. He assumed I'd cave. A week later, when I didn't respond, their tone shifted. My mom's texts dripped with disdain, calling me cruel for letting Ethan suffer. My dad dropped the pretense. You're hurting him for no reason. You'll regret this forever. I blocked them. I thought that would be the end, but the quiet felt ominous, like a storm brewing. Then one Tuesday night, it hit. I got pulled over on my way to work. I wasn't speeding, my car was legal, I wasn't distracted. But the officer didn't care about traffic laws. Ma'am, we got a tip about illegal substances in your vehicle. Step out, please. My blood ran cold. What? I stammered. He repeated, Step out. I knew I was clean. I'd never touched anything illegal, but his tone, like this was already settled, made my hands tremble as I complied. They searched my car and found a bag of drugs under my seat. I'd never seen it before, but I knew instantly who was behind it. I kept repeating, That's not mine. Someone planted it. They took me to the station for questioning, not under arrest, but close. I was terrified, my life hanging by a thread. Then an officer mentioned security cameras in the lot where I'd parked. I nearly collapsed with hope. Reviewing the footage took forever, each second agonizing. If the cameras failed, I could lose my job, my reputation, everything. But then, an officer said, "Got something." There, on the screen, was Ethan, casually slipping the bag under my seat, glancing around like it was nothing. I wanted to scream, laugh, cry, all at once. The officers exchanged looks. "She's free to go," one said. "We'll need to bring him in." I sat there, numb, as they arrested Ethan. He didn't fight, didn't explain. I could already see how this would play out. He'd play the victim, blame his illness, and my parents would minimize it. Sure enough, my parents arrived at the station, furious. Not at Ethan, but at me. My mom wailed, loud enough for everyone to hear, "He's sick! He wasn't thinking!" My dad cornered me, his voice low and venomous. "This is your fault. You pushed him to this." I stared, incredulous. "You saw the video? He tried to frame me, and you're blaming me?" My mom snapped, "If you'd done what you were supposed to, he wouldn't have had to." Watching them defend him even now shattered something in me. I'd spent years feeling inadequate, thinking if I was better, they'd love me like they loved Ethan. But here was proof my brother tried to destroy me, and they still chose him. I was never going to be enough. I turned to my mom, my voice steady. "You did this. You made him this way." Her tears stopped, her act faltering. "What are you talking about?" she said, playing innocent. I stepped closer. "Aunt Laura told me. I know why you had me." Her face changed, the mask slipping. My dad froze. "I don't know what she said, but she's always tried to poison you against us," my mom deflected. I laughed, cold and sharp. "Really? That's your story?" I pressed. "Tell me the truth. Was I born just to save Ethan?" They didn't answer. The silence was deafening. My mom lifted her chin, defiant. "We did what we had to. You wouldn't exist without Ethan." The words cut deeper than I expected. I knew the truth, but hearing her say it so casually, like I was irrational for caring, broke me. I looked at my dad, hoping for a shred of remorse. Nothing. "We saved his life," he said flatly. "That was the goal." "So that's it," I said, more to myself. "I was just a means to an end?" My mom sighed, exasperated. "We raised you, gave you everything, school, clothes, a home. And now, when it's your turn to give back, you abandon us." I shook my head. "Abandon you? You didn't want me. You needed me." An officer interrupted. "If you're done, we have charges to process." My mom spun to them, desperate. "My son was desperate. He didn't mean it." The officer didn't flinch. "The footage is clear, ma'am." My dad tried a new angle, lowering his voice. "Can we settle this quietly? No need to escalate." He was bargaining like Ethan's crime was a minor hiccup. That was my breaking point. I turned to the officer. "I want to press charges." My mom gasped. "Ava, you wouldn't?" I didn't waver. "I would." My dad warned. "You're making a mistake." I met his gaze. "Number." "The mistake was thinking you ever cared about me." And I walked away. It's been over a year since that night. I'm still learning to live without them. At first, it felt like I was waiting for them to drag me back into their world. But the longer I stayed away, the clearer it became. They'd never change. I'd just been blind to it. Ethan stayed in prison. My parents pulled every string to free him, but their resources were tapped out from years of prioritizing him. I thought they'd back off once reality hit, but instead, they started a crowdfunding campaign. My mom spun a tale of betrayal, painting me as the heartless daughter who abandoned her dying brother, wrongfully accused. Distant relatives, acquaintances, even strangers donated, leaving comments condemning me. I could have let them self-destruct. But one night, Laura looked at me and said, "We should talk to your old doctor." I was confused. "What doctor?" "Your childhood one," she said. "He might have proof." I didn't think I needed proof. I knew the truth. But if there was evidence, it could stop their lies for good. We found Dr. Carter, long retired. When we explained, he agreed to meet. I expected minor details, maybe confirmation I wasn't crazy. Instead, he dropped a bomb. I wasn't their second child. I was their fourth attempt. They'd conceived 3 embryos before me, terminating each when tests showed they weren't a match for Ethan. They weren't building a family. They were engineering a donor. I felt nauseous. I'd hoped, despite everything, that there was some love buried in their actions. But I was just the first success, a means to an end. Laura held my hand as Dr. Carter gave me records, files my parents never thought I'd see. I made a choice. I sent everything to the authorities. The investigation snowballed. The fertility doctor lost his license, and it turned out my parents weren't alone. Other families had created donor babies too. The scandal erupted, and my parents lost everything. The crowdfunding stopped, supporters vanished, their reputation crumbled. They didn't apologize. They called it a conspiracy, claimed they were victims. Ethan stayed locked up, still acting blameless. I thought they'd fade away, but they had one last trick. My cousin Sarah called, frantic. "Ava, Ethan tried to kill himself. Your mom posted about it. He's critical. She says if you care at all, you'll visit." My heart sank. What if it was true? Despite everything, I couldn't ignore it. So I called the prison, keeping it simple. "Is my brother alive?" The officer sounded bored. "Yeah, he's fine," I exhaled. "Is he critical?" A pause. "Not even close. They'd faked it, a desperate ploy to guilt me back. I wasn't shocked, just tired. They'd never cared about honesty, only control. I didn't respond. I sent the post to the authorities. Within days, my parents were done. Family cut them off, friends disappeared, my mom deleted her accounts, my dad stopped fighting. It's been over a year, and my life is unrecognizable. I moved to a new city, started a new job, and for the first time, I feel like I belong. I'm engaged to Liam, who knows every ugly detail of my past and loves me anyway, not as a sob story, but as me. And the biggest news? I'm pregnant. At first, I was terrified I'd fail as a parent, that I'd somehow echo my parents' mistakes. But Liam said, "You know exactly what not to do." He's right. My child will never doubt they're wanted. They'll never fight for my love. They'll never be a tool for someone else. They'll be cherished, wholly, unconditionally. I didn't come from a real family, but I'm building one. And for the first time, I'm truly free. If you enjoyed this story and felt the emotions behind it, don't forget to give it a like, share it with others, and subscribe to the channel for more real-life experiences and heartfelt stories. Your support means the world, and it helps us bring more content like this to you. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.